At the other side, we have the fatal accidents in traffic that took place this year. And as a government, we are very, very worried with this development, realizing already that we lost some lives with accidents on the roads of St. Martin, not only in a vehicle accident, but also motorbike accidents. Especially the motorbike accidents are becoming a great concern for country St. Martin. And I'm just giving follow-up to the front page of our newspaper of this morning, in which we see that already the KPSM is initiating what we are planning to actually do in the coming months for St. Martin. They started already with actually crushing the motorbikes that has been confiscated in the past. And that is the first step that we have in moving forward with what we have to do as a government to prevent what is going on now with all those accidents. And we started now through the Ministry of Justice with the request for us to start crushing the motorbikes. There are more than 100 motorbikes are being crushed, as the article also states in the newspaper. And it serves to show the community that we are really serious about destroying those motor vehicles that are not appropriate to be used on the roads. And secondly, we are making space for the action plan that we have in the nearby future to be aggressive on the roads, because this government will not tolerate what we all are experiencing in this country at this particular moment, with the irresponsible behavior of the scooter riders. Unfortunately, that they want to have this dangerous behavior in traffic, I will have to settle with that because that's their choice. What I cannot settle for is that they become a danger for the other users, innocent people that do adhere to the traffic rules and regulations. So we will have to have the warning towards them, informing them about the consequences of being involved in a motorbike accident. I think everybody knows that, but we have to still continue informing the youth about the dangerous situation that they can bring themselves in, especially with their health. But on the other side, we have a responsibility too as a government to protect the other users on the road. And that's why we're going to have a very proactive, active approach on the roads to see how we can get a better control of the misuse and the abuse by the scooter riders here on the island. And actually, we have to go to a no-tolerance approach because this is getting out of hand in St. Martin. It's not good for our safety. Tourists are getting problems with it. Our own citizens have already problems with it. So we think we have to be very aggressive and proactive. And the proactiveness is already that we started with the crushing of the bikes that have been confiscated in the past period. I would like, by the way, to thank the KPSM for their contribution and their commitment for us to realize our approach toward the motor riders this year. Secondly, we spoke about the Disaster Reserve Fund. We are going to really make it a project. It will take some while, though, but we are going to really work on the Disaster Reserve Fund for us to have a good fund for in the future, because, as you know, we are all exposed to the climate changes of the world, actually, and we will have to have a buffer one or the other way for seeing how we can cope with the consequences of a climate hazard. So in this case, we will have to have a disaster reserve fund at place. We are working on it, and we're going to get back the reflows from the airport, and we will use that to deposit in the disaster reserve fund for us to have creation of a buffer to be able to manage with the consequences of, for example, a hurricane that hopefully we will not get. As we know, we now have a stabilization of the supply of energy on the grid for St. Martin. You have to realize that when I started in office, it was a national crisis of energy deficit for the consumers. So we came from having almost a very unstable or no energy for the country, momentum of blackouts and severe load shedding. We came in approximately 6 to 8 months. We managed to stabilize the grid for the people of this country. I think this is a great achievement. Although all the panic that we had, the government stayed focused and did what he had to do. The next phase that we are going to go through now is see how we can make the energy supply sustainable for consumption for the users of this country. And of course, we have already the good news that we have received the loan that we have negotiated in those hectic months that passed us by trying to control the consequences of the crisis. We didn't only stabilize back the grid, but we also, while the hecticness was going on, this government was able to secure an amount for the purchase of the grid generators that we rely on for the future, for the sustainability. And we are talking in total about an amount of 75.6 million that we got as a loan from the government of the Netherlands on our request to move forward with making sure that we have sustainability for the energy supply for the people of St. Martin. I think these are great moments, although all the critics that we have received in 6 months, 8 months, we were able to stabilize back the grid. And we were even able in those 6 to 8 months, which this government is very proud of, to already have this amount of capital deposited on our accounts, ready to move forward for the guaranteeing of sustainability of energy for the future. We have to actually do this in phases to make sure that it goes in a responsible and transparent way, and that we get what the people of St. Martin deserve.
% indexation for subsidized school teachers. The 2% indexation is expected to be disbursed at the end of January. While this was not the original objective, upon swearing in, I was informed that the advices had not been finalized as yet, and I made it a priority to have that happen so that I could sign off and move the process along. Unfortunately, the timeline between swearing in, budget handling in Central Committee, and then the holidays was all a bit squashed together, so we couldn't meet the original target. However, it is my intention to ensure that moving forward, there is a greater priority to have these processes improved and made more efficient so that we don't have these types of delays in the future. I want to also note that once the funds are disbursed to the school boards, it's their responsibility to make sure that subsidized teachers receive it in a timely manner, and I will do my utmost best to follow up to make sure that that happens. Secondly, regarding the Prince William Alexander School, I want to just give some history and context to that. Upon assuming office, I was immediately faced with that ongoing dispute at Prince William Alexander, called PWAS for short. The situation at PWAS is indeed a multifaceted issue that involves challenges that extend beyond the school's internal operations, and it cannot be resolved in isolation. As the only special education institution on St. Martin, the school has been at the center of escalating conflicts for quite some time. What began as a single personnel matter has now evolved into a broader dispute involving the entire management team. These conflicts have not only damaged professional relationships, but it also created an atmosphere of mistrust and dysfunction that has deeply affected the school. As a result, the institution's ability to function effectively has been significantly compromised, placing staff, but most importantly, students and their families in a precarious and uncertain position. Of course, over the last few years, the situation has attracted media attention, even calling with Y2 asking for immediate action to resolve the matter. To address these issues, I've authorized an independent investigation to examine concerns related to student handling and management disputes. The investigation is estimated to take approximately 4 weeks to conclude. Following that, I will review the findings of the investigation and take appropriate steps with their recommendations and potential solutions to ensure that the best interests of these our most vulnerable students at the institution are prioritized. The future of those students depends on the decisions that I make and we collectively as a government make to support their development and restore stability to the school, which remains my priority. I also want to note that any questions regarding placement of personnel, etc., cannot be answered until I have the full concluded report from the investigation.
Minister, I'd like to ask you a question as it relates to compulsory education. Currently, the law dictates that all children should start school at the age of 4. Now, if there is a case where there is a child or children who learns differently, act differently, may have special needs, the system is set up where they are required to enter into the regular education system, and at the age of 7, if it is deemed necessary, then they go to the special needs school that we have. I would like to know, what should a parent do if their 4-year-old is denied access to education at the age of 4 because they learn or act differently?
So that's against the law. I received a similar question, not necessarily with special needs in mind, but from MP Duran in the Budget Central Committee regarding the age, when you're born after a certain time. But the law says you have to start school at 4. So that's against the law. I just want to make that very clear for any institution that may be listening in. Even too when it comes to your date of birth, my answer to MP Duran was essentially that that was a policy that was started by a school board, and the rest just kind of ran with it. So as we continue to improve the communication of the ministry, it's my intention when I meet with the school boards to say that this cannot continue because the law says this. You cannot make a policy that then contravenes with the law. Regarding the need for special needs children to enter general education first, it is a matter of testing. And it's good that you asked this question because the intention of Division Public Education is to now come with a research-based proposal that will identify the steps we need to take to maybe have it so that the testing can begin earlier and then you can flow into special needs education at a younger age. So there's no need for that time gap in general education before you can transition to PWAS or so. But ultimately as well, the special needs education policy takes into consideration the fact that we have one special needs school on the island, so you need to also improve the level of all other schools, subsidized and public, so that they're able to accommodate students who are maybe on a less severe end of the spectrum and can function in a general education environment with some additional attention. So all of that is going to be part of SOA-based roadmap as well, and the research being done by DPE.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXV, yeah. Your social health insurances.
As you talk about the PWAS as the situation there and the retraction of the decision taken by the former minister, I managed to get a hand on your letter that was sent to the school, and I noticed that at least one of the persons that were removed in management, no mention was made. After receiving that report, we believe it's the entire team will be reevaluated as to whether or not they will be replaced to the school or moved to some other school. Another thing I'd like to ask you, Minister, as we are dealing with the PWAS as well as MLK that is also housed at that building. There was a contractor who was given a contract to either construct or repair the both schools. Can you tell us what's the status of the repairs of the both MLK, which is Martin Luther King, as well as PWAS?
Thank you, Bibi. Regarding the letter for retractions, there was an incorrect move that was done, and that is what has been retracted based on the level of the individual concerned. Further to that, in terms of evaluations, etc., I do have to wait for the conclusion of the independent investigation to actually see what the recommendations and solutions are so that we can move forward in a way that is most beneficial for the students. Regarding MLK, I have an update pending on that. We are, of course, starting budget coming Monday, so next week is pretty much a dead week. So I'm hoping to get the update this Friday. And as for the Prince William Alexander campus in Retreat Estate, this is something that I have also asked about when I was on the other side of the aisle. And I'm hoping in the MLK update to receive that similar update with that, because I do find it a priority to move Prince William Alexander to its own campus whenever that timeline can be completed.
You talk about setting up an independent investigation. Could you explain what that body who are the participants, or what that body consists of that allows them to be independent? What authorities do they have, and are they getting the cooperation that they need in order to produce that report?
Yes. I can't reveal who it's going to be, but they are going to be external consultants. They're not related to the school in any way, shape, or form, and this is also why the decision has been made that the persons related to the investigation cannot be in the environment while the investigation is happening. That is how it will remain independent, but they will have the full cooperation of the the Division of Public Education and Prince William Alexander moving forward.
Recently, I think it was on the 27th of December, the Secretary General for the United Nations sounded the alarm, basically saying that all nations need to prepare themselves in case of a pandemic or epidemic. I'm sure you have taken note of that statement recently. We saw the press release coming from the former Minister of ESA basically sounding the alarm in regards to possible pandemics. The Member of Parliament, De Weaver, spoke of the need to establish a special fund to deal with such in case of. What sort of preparations are being put in place to ensure the safety of all citizens in case of a pandemic? Two, we know that St. Martin is part of the Pan American Health Organization and by extension the World Health Organization. What's your association with CAFA?
Okay. We have the World Health Organization. We are in good contact with the World Health Organization, and of course we are following the guidelines. As you could read in the newspaper this morning, the Minister of ESA, Minister Brugge, already made a statement about the human metapneumovirus, the human metapneumovirus. And until now, there are no indications for panic. That is very important. We are following the developments in the world. We are following the guidelines of the World Health Organization, for example. At the moment that there is any indication or any request or any instruction given by the World Health Organization that we have to take any measure, of course, that is going to be taken to protect our people of our country. But until now, there are no indications for panic in St. Martin.
The possibility of establishing a special fund to deal with the possibility of establishing a special fund, as is advocating by the Member of Parliament, De Wever, in case of a pandemic, and of course your affiliation with CAFA.
At the moment there is a natural disaster, the budget of the country is being reconsidered for the people of a country to survive any natural disaster that are confronting them at that particular moment. So if money has to come free to save lives in our country, don't worry with that. We will handle it as we have handled all the disasters in the past. We're going to give priority again to our budget because that becomes main priority for the country in case we encounter a natural disaster in our country. So don't worry with that.
Your affiliation with CAFA?
Pardon? I do not know the last information because I'm not the Minister of VSA. I follow it, of course, first because of my background, and of course I'm the Prime Minister leading the government. But the last details of the PAVA I'm not aware of at this particular moment, so I cannot give you a direct answer on that one.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurance.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
When you're sick, they don't seem to necessarily have legal rights to decide, well, okay, I don't feel that I'm getting the necessary where I want with this doctor, or I want to do this, something that is outlined to let the patients know what their rights are as a patient. I think that's important. Secondly, I think what you should do, and I mean, it's only been a couple of days since you've been minister, come with a comprehensive plan, and when we have the open bara vergadering, then you can present what it is you want to do with the ministry now that you're at the helm of the ministry of VSA. And then lastly, I've heard a lot of suggestions in regards to the gasoline, the 1 cent on the gasoline, and also the syntax. My suggestion there is that the COM, in that decision making, I would propose that all ministries, instead of it going into the general coffers of the, because that's once you generate more funds, no matter what ministry it comes from, it goes into the general coffers. I would ask the COM to make a policy that all revenues that are generated by ministries per ministry, that be done as a surplus and can be then directed directly into that ministry the following budget year. So for example, if the Ministry of Sports add 1 or 2, I think 1 cent is too less. If we're really serious about sports and youth, I think it should be anywhere between 2 and 3 cents, because then you could actually get concrete results as far as infrastructure is concerned. But that money specifically goes to sports, not in the general coffers. The same with the syntax, public health, because public health is the one who then in turns pays the medical bills. So syntax, that should be specifically for public health as a surplus, as opposed to the other regular taxes that we do. So if you and your staff could put something like that together and propose it to Parliament, I think we'll be on the right track. Thank you.
First of all, I'm happy to see that the legal help desk is continuing, and I'm also happy to see that there is a master class structures to be taking place every quarter, and especially happy seeing the recent labor events and issues that seem to be taking place on the island, that there will be, the first one upcoming will be in regards to labor law, because I always believe in education is key, and once you know your rights to the law, you would know how to tackle it in the proper manner, and also know your accessibility to the right channels. So I commend the ministry on continuing with that. Other than that, I do want to give some feedback in regards to consultation sessions. I would like to ask the ministry to look into making sure that there will be legal-minded people on rotation in the help desk, and not only every quarter, because you know you would like to have accessibility to the law, so to look into how that can be taking place in a structured manner. And I'm always willing to think together and assist where I can assist, and get colleagues on board and or assist in other ways needed. So that I would like to add in regards to the part of the legal help desk. Other than that, I did also understand, I don't know which colleague MP asked the question in regards to the cannabis legislation. Yesterday, I was talking to other colleagues and the previous VSI minister in regards to that. And I think it was MP Utley, who was also a VSI minister. So I just would like to have some kind of clarity on that legislation and the documents connected to it. I would like to ask if it's possible to get certain documents submitted, if needed, in a private setting, or submitted in a private manner, confidential, so that I can look into this legislation, parties involved, what is really the cannabis legislation and our work group, and where are we with it, and where are we going with it, so that everything that happens transparent and fair, and that it will benefit the country St. Martin on a whole, and that all parties and stakeholders involved has been consulted. And yeah, that's what I would like to bring forward for now.
Another thing I would like to tell you, Minister, when you're reading your answers needs to be your answers. That is why it's important. Through you, Madam Chair. Do not just take the answers as it comes and deliver it. You see, the Honorable Prime Minister has a Mr. Johnson, who I know would fix certain answers. Certain ministers has someone. Take my advice and make sure the answer suits your vision and what you want to carry out. In the line of Versa, there's going to be a lot of can'ts, I can't, it won't, it's not possible. Your job as minister is to use your foresight and say, how can we make this possible? What trajectory is needed to make this possible? Also, something as important as the health levy, the tax, tourist tax, The answer that was stated is that the cabinet has not seen it as yet. It's at the SED. It's in DIV, Honorable Minister, through you, Madam Chair. This is one of the most important tools that is being mentioned as revenue generating by this government. It was brought by the previous government, but it's one of the most important tools that you are hearing by this government. And it started and it was paid for under the Ministry of VSR. So please have your staff review and ensure, because it was viewed to be as well as a health levy, like I stated, once the money goes into the coffers, the original intention within government was to allocate certain amount of funds to SZV to deal with that backlog. So please take control and ensure that you protect SZV while the country makes money. Another thing, I'm happy to hear you also, through you, Madam Chair, clarify that AOV, of course, is not taxed. It's lower than the threshold to be taxed. The problem is because it's so low, our pensioners who receive AOV are just solely are suffering, and then those who can receive extra income are then taxed. So I'm happy to see, again, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. The AOV pension will be raised, you said, as of January 1st. The minimum wage will be raised as of January 1st. And you have a responsibility. There are going to be those that say, oh, because you raise the minimum wage, prices are going to go up. Then that's the responsibility of each ministry to ensure that there's no price gouging and to ensure that the stores are carrying out their responsibility. But you cannot stop your job, which is raising the minimum wage, for fear of this. Because if you don't raise the minimum wage, guess what? Prices will go up either way. Because what allows it to raise is the indexation of the cost of living. So which means prices went up.
And then I don't see any further need at this point, Minister. This would mean that we will break with your ministry, and via the secretariats, you will indicate when you're able to come back and address the additional points that have been raised. And so you want to say something before I adjourn this part of the meeting. You have the floor, Minister.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. I'd just like to thank the members of Parliament. I know I'm coming back to give the answers, but I'd like to thank you very much for your constructive criticism. And I do take all that you have said into account. And thank you very much for understanding that it is the first hurdle. But again, I will not, how do you say? It will get better, for sure, I guarantee you. And to the public of St. Martin as well.